respected chief medical directors, all medical directors, all seniors and dear friends. At the outset, I must thank the organizers to give me the opportunity to speak over here in front of this August gathering. But I am afraid whether I will be able to keep all of you awake in this pre-lunch session, particularly after 2 hot interactive sessions with this dull clinical topic of hypothyroidism, management of hypothyroidism. Anyway, I will try my best. Now, when the request came to me to talk on management of hypothyroidism, this geometric figure puzzle came to my mind. Yes. When I was a child, this puzzle was given by my elder brother, and he asked me to count the number of triangles, quadrilaterals and pentagons in it. And I thought it was very easy and started counting. And soon I realized that it is not that easy what it apparently seems to be. Such is the management of hypothyroidism. Apparently it is very easy just to do a TSH, to put on the patient on L-thyroxine. But in practicality, sometimes we face much difficulty, particularly it is needed to have strong index of suspicion to diagnose hypothyroidism in such situations, particularly when it is presented in a varied way. Particularly when the dose adjustment is sometimes very tricky, and sometimes the clinical and biochemical response is also variable, and also it is difficult to tackle hypothyroidism in certain special situations, like in pregnancy, in elderly people, in neonates, in children, and also handling myxedema coma-like emergency situations. So goiter is a very old entity. Its concept is very old, even older than the diabetes mellitus. If we look back in ancient history, it is seen that China is described in 2700 BC, and in India, Ayurvedic medicine described goiter as gologondo, all of you know that. But hypothyroidism was also described as kaphaja, and Alpian peoples knew it 2 millennium ago. In Renaissance age, we can see that in several pictures, there was presence of goiter in some beautiful ladies, and it was probably thought that goiter was a sign of beauty in those ladies. And if you can observe that the little child or baby in the lap of the ladies, we can easily assume that thyroid disorders in pregnancy they were also aware of that fact also. Now, it was Leonardo da Vinci who first drew the picture of thyroid anatomy amongst many other anatomical pictures. And this was the first photograph of a patient with myxedema in 1978. Now, beginning of iodine replacement started in early 19th century, when some people took mixture of seaweeds and marine sponge, and they observed that this source of iodine helped to shrink the thyroid gland, although they never knew, they couldn't correlate what was the actual cause of it. They didn't know that the goiter was due to iodine deficiency. But organotherapy, the concept of organotherapy and thyroxine therapy, it first started by Murray and Brown-Sequard, the two people living in two different areas, one in Portugal and another in Paris. And first Murray, he extracted some thyroid extract, and he injected in some people to combat hypothyroidism. But Brown-Sequard was able to make the tablet. You can see here, this is a curio, and this is the first patent, first advertisement of Brown-Sequard's extracts of animal organs. And we know the present situation, later Kendall derived L-thyroxine, which is very much absorbable from the gut. And later this newer therapies which we use in our day-to-day practice is available now. Now, although our focus is on management of hypothyroidism, let us have a quick brush up about the etiology of hypothyroidism. Primary and secondary, all of you know that primary, the disease lies in the thyroid itself, whether in the segmental or secondary. The cause lies in the pituitary. And among the primary, in this post-iodization era, the commonest cause is, of course, autoimmune thyroiditis, followed by definitely iodine deficiency. But we should remember that iodine excess can also cause hypothyroidism due to George-Bezos phenomenon or triggering autoimmunity. And there may be post-surgical cases, post-radioablative cases. Certain drugs may cause hypothyroidism like amiodarone, lithium, interferon, etc. Central hypothyroidism is definitely an important cause which we should never forget of, and also transient hypothyroidism. Now, regarding the clinical features of hypothyroidism, there are certain very common features like weight gain, like lethargy, sleepiness, aches and pains, hair fall, menstrual irregularity, etc. But sometimes strong clinical suspicion is needed due to varied presentation. As for example, we may share certain cases. A 36-year-old lady who presented with chest pain and progressive dyspnea on clinical examination with raised JVP and muffled heart sounds. This was her chest X-ray, and this was her echo confirming the diagnosis of pericardial effusion. So we should have a suspicion, and we should do the free T4 and TSH, and it was diagnosed as a case of primary hypothyroidism. L-thyroxine replacement was done, and this was a chest X-ray after 3 months. Now, case 2, another unusual presentation. A 54-year-old male presented with progressively increasing scanning speech, limb and truncal ataxia, horizontal nystagmus, without any motor and sensory deficit, without any past history of CVA or drug history, and there was no history of alcoholism, and the MRI was normal. He was found to have gross hypothyroidism, and replacement reversed the symptoms. And this is also very common, a 42-year-old lady with pain and numbness in lateral 3.5 fingers with gross wasting and thinner eminence, proved to be a case of carpal tunnel syndrome along with hypothyroidism and LT4 replacement. It at least reversed the pain, although not the wasting. The case 4. This patient, actually he came with an inability to stand from squatting position, features of proximal myopathy with swelling of calf muscles and hung up reflexes. And if you can see his face, we can easily identify the myxedematous face, the boggy periorbital swelling, the dull look. But he was not concerned about that. He was most concerned about his myopathy, and he was grossly hypothyroid when TSH was done, and it is popularly known as Hoffman syndrome. So replacement can reverse the situation. These are few cases of juvenile hypothyroids. They usually present with short stature, delayed puberty, and poor scholastic performance, and we should always do thyroid in these children. You can see here the dull look, the protuberant abdomen, the macroglacia, and even the calf muscle hypertrophy, which is known as Cocker-Debris semiligneous syndrome. This is a very interesting case. A 6-year-old girl presented with dull face, protuberant abdomen, and she presented with actually precocity. You can see the thalarch has already started. The labia majora and minora, they are swollen with rugosity, and she was short stature also, and her thyroid level was TSH was more than 150, and estradiol was high with low LH, and she was diagnosed as a incomplete precocious puberty due to hypothyroidism. And interestingly, there was a feedback adenoma due to high TSH, and which we can see with the enlarged sella and the pituitary tumor. So this is another case who presented with recurrent unconsciousness 5 times, and ultimately she was diagnosed as a case of secondary hypothyroidism due to empty sella. And this patient initially was done only TSH, but later when all the 3 thyroid functions was done, central hypothyroidism was diagnosed. Now these are the varied presentations. Who says that hypothyroidism is only an endocrine disorder? It is an endocrine disorder indeed from origin, but it actually has multi-system presentation. Due to lack of time, I may omit this slide. So what are the recommendations for screening of hypothyroidism? Various organizations are there, but except American Thyroid Association, who told to screen thyroid disorders at the age of 35 years, most of the other organizations like American Association of Clinical Endocrinology, American College of Physicians, etc., they recommended the screening of hypothyroidism in after 50 years, particularly in women, and 1 or more, and after that 5 years thereafter. And this is the laboratory assessment of hypothyroidism. We should do TSH, of course, but at the same time we should also do the free T4. If the TSH is high and the free T4 is low, you can see here, sorry. So here, if the primary hypothyroidism is diagnosed, and if the TSH is high and free T4 is normal, then we diagnose it as a case of subclinical hypothyroidism. If the TSH is low or normal and the free T3, T4 and T3 is also normal, then there are three suspicions. One is central hypothyroidism, one is non-thyroidal illness or CQ thyroid syndrome, and third one is the drug effect. It may be due to dopamine, may be due to corticosteroids or any other drugs, and if both are normal, then okay, it's normal, we can leave the patient. Now regarding the etiological diagnosis of hypothyroidism, anti-TPO antibody and TG antibody is done in subclinical hypothyroidism only. In hypothyroidism, if it is overt, then it's not needed because it should be treated at any cost. And urinary iodine excretion, if the iodine deficiency is suspected, USG of neck in neonates if thyroid agenesis is suspected, perchlorate distress test for hormonal dysgenesis, and other pituitary hormones if central cause is suspected, particularly if the FT3 and FT4 is low and the TSH is low or normal. And regarding the other investigations, there may be CPK, liver enzymes, etc. may be high, sodium may be low, and there may be dyslipidemia and any sort of anemia, microcytic, normocytic or macrocytic. And there is a myth about the diet in hypothyroidism regarding management. Sorry for the spelling mistake. Avoidance of goitrogens is not essential in iodized area because those spinach, cabbage, cauliflowers, all those actually they have thiocyanates, and in iodized area they don't cause goiter. So we can take it in ample amount. But large amount of soya products at night is usually avoided because that can prevent the absorption of L-thyroxine. Now, initiation of replacement therapy is by adult initial dose is 1.6 to 1.8 microgram per kg. Always start with low dose. We know that the dictum is to go slow, start low and go slow in elderly and also in coronary artery disease patients. Start with 25 microgram because there may be worsening angina and atrial fibrillation may occur. Even you start low with in juvenile hypothyroids because there is an entity called benign intracranial hypertension or pseudotumor cerebri which may occur in these patients. But in congenital hypothyroids, we usually start with higher doses according at par with the age, 50 microgram total dose. Now, clinical response to the therapy earliest is diuresis and correction of hyponatremia. Gradually, the other symptoms like bradycardia, like appetite, constipation improve, and psychomotor activity also improves. But the hoarseness and dermatological problems, they are last to appear, and sometimes they don't disappear at all. Regarding monitoring, it is very important that although it is monitored by TSH, first monitor should be done at least after 6 weeks. Sometimes we see that after 1 week TSH is done, and if the result is not appropriate, then dose of L-thyroxine is increased, but that is not a proper practice. And reassess the dose again after 6 months because after the thyroxine therapy is done, the hypometabolism of hypothyroidism is corrected and there is increased drug clearance, and that may need increase in the dose of this L-thyroxine. Annual monitoring, once the dose is stable, then annual monitoring by TSH and also free T4 is done. And in 7th or 8th decade, 20 to 30% dose reduction is done. Central hypothyroidism is monitored by T3 and T4 and not by TSH because TSH may be normal in those patients. Now, non-response to treatment. The commonest cause is always non-compliance and non-compliance. But if the compliance is assured, then other causes like GI disorders, particularly malabsorption, drugs which decreases LT4 absorption, like very common drugs, iron, sucralfate, calcium carbonate, cholestyramine, these may hamper the absorption, and at least 4 hours gap should be given between these drugs and L-thyroxine. Drugs which increase the cytochrome P440 activity like rifampicin, carbamazepine, phenytoin, etc., and drugs which decreases the peripheral conversion like amiodarone. These may cause non-response to the treatment in these patients. Now, should we always treat subclinical hypothyroidism where TSH is high but not the T3 and T4? There are certain common indications of treatment like TSH if it is more than 10, if there is autoimmune background like TPO positivity, goiter, dyslipidemia, cognitive dysfunction in the form of dementia or memory loss, menstrual irregularities in young ladies, infertility, pregnancy of course, and also growth failure in children. Otherwise, we may not treat subclinical hypothyroidism and may wait and watch. Now, a few words about hypothyroidism in special situation. Hypothyroidism in pregnancy, of course, we should be very alert about that because pregnancy outcome of untreated hypothyroidism in pregnancy is not very good. Spontaneous abortion, preeclampsia, abruption, stillbirth, anemia, PPH, preterm birth, all can occur, mainly with avert, but also with subclinical hypothyroidism. And there may be a problem in the neonatal brain development and also in the low IQ. And so gestational age 12 to 20 weeks, this should be screened. And if it is antibody positive, then TSH is less than 2, do nothing and monitor again. And if antibody is positive and TSH is 2 to 4, mind that the cutoff here is here 4 microarray international unit, then do FT4, and if it is low, treat it. If the TSH is more than 4, then LT4 is supplemented without doing the free T4 itself, and follow-up should be done at postpartum. Now, guidelines of treatment of hypothyroidism, I would just like to highlight that the pre-pregnancy TSH level in non-hypothyroid patients should be less than 2.5, otherwise there may be complications. And target TSH in first trimester is 2.5 again, and target FT4 is high normal, not low normal or mid normal. And reassessment should be done every 30 to 40 days in case of pregnancy. Now, regarding few words about the congenital hypothyroidism, screening is becoming universal nowadays, and it should be done by heel prick blood at day 2 or day 3, and cutoff here is 11. If it is less than 11, normal. If it is more than 11, repeat. If it is again less than 15, then it is normal, but if it is more than 15, do FT4, and if it is more than 30, then treat the patient very quickly. I am omitting this slide. Now, regarding the treatment of congenital hypothyroidism, here the dose requirement is very high, around 10 to 15 microgram per kg, and it should be gradually reduced as the child grows older. At about 5 years, the dose is around 4 to 5 microgram per kg, and gradually he or she will gain the adult dose. Now, my last topic is myxedema coma. Only few words. We should know that myxedema coma is a misnomer because the patients are not always in coma, just like diabetic ketoacidosis. And the precipitating factors are infection, particularly the chest infection, the cold environment, CVA, congestive cardiac failure, and particularly few drugs like sedatives, narcotics, anesthetics, amiodarone, etc., trauma, GI bleed. And the presenting features are often altered mental status, and there are several hypos: hypothermia or absence of fever in infection, hypoglycemia, hyponatremia, hypoxemia, hypercapnia, acidosis, and only one hyper, that is hypercalcemia. Now, when we will manage the patient, first of all, we should have strong index of suspicion, and when we will manage the patient, we should first treat hypothyroxinemia by loading dose of L-thyroxine 300 to 500 microgram, followed by maintenance dose 50 to 100 microgram per day. If there is no response, then liothyronine is theoretically should be given, although it is not available here. For hypothermia, active rewarming is not done because that may cause peripheral vasodilatation and may precipitate again hypotension. For hypotension, IV crystalloids. For hyponatremia, fluid restriction is needed, not extra salt. Hypoglycemia should be treated by IV glucose, and is very important to treat hypocortisolemia because unless we treat hypocortisolemia and give hydrocortisone, then the patient may land up in Addisonian crisis, adrenal failure, because once thyroxine is given, the metabolism increases, and so adrenal crisis may be precipitated. So 100 to 200 milligram of hydrocortisone in 3 to 4 doses. And if there is hypoventilation due to central alveolar ventilation, hypoventilation, which is very common to severe hypothyroidism, then mechanical ventilation is needed. And of course, the treatment of precipitating events. Now, the take-home message, I will go very short. The commonest cause of primary hypothyroidism is autoimmune hypothyroidism. Normal or low FT3, FT4 may be present with increased TSH. TSH may be normal in central hypothyroidism. LT4 replacement is done at the rate of 1.6 to 1.8 microgram per kg, and gradually it is monitored. And monitoring is done at 6 weeks. The commonest cause of non-response is non-compliance, but drugs may alter. And in pregnancy, the target TSH is less than 2.5. Neonatal hypothyroidism is treated by 10 to 15 microgram per kg. Myxedema coma is a medical emergency and managed by loading dose of L-thyroxine, hydrocortisone, and supportive treatment. And this is my last slide. One plump and slow lethargic elephant come to a lady doctor, and the doctor says it might be your thyroid. And the elephant was prescribed with L-thyroxine, and she became slimmer, and she ran away without giving the fees to the doctor. So thank you all for patient hearing.
Thank you, Dr. Mukherjee, for finishing in time. when I was a medical graduate, thyroid screening was not available, and the teaching, standard teaching was that you should treat a case of hypothyroidism if you suspect it.
Yes. At that time, sir, it was not available.
But nowadays, screening facility is available even in smaller town. Even in villages, there is a collection center for thyroid screening. I just want to know what is the cutoff level of BMI where you should start screening.
Actually, sir, there is no definite cutoff level of BMI because hypothyroidism, obesity and hypothyroidism, that is actually mainly a myth because all obese persons are not hypothyroid, and we can see in our clinical practice that very thin persons may have TSH of 150 also. So this can happen very well, but and also hypothyroidism can put weight for only 1.5 to 2 kg, not more than that. So BMI cutoff is not actually, it is not standardized. No.
Thanks. There may be a lot of questions from audience, but I will leave it to it for lunchtime. Thank you.
Now may I request Dr. R.S. Chaubey, CMD, NF Railway, to hand over a memento to the speaker, Dr. Sharmishta Mukherjee. We invite Dr. Patnaik, MD Garden Reach, to please felicitate the chairpersons. Thank you, sir. With this, we come to the end of second day's pre-lunch session, and we will be back with the next session from 3 p.m. 3:15 p.m.